Hello everybody and welcome to my Afterthoughts video regarding the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Wow, what a ride. We really enjoyed that movie. It was very entertaining, very interesting, very different, and also thought-provoking. You know, it raises questions like, would you ever consider going with the aliens in the end? I mean, wow, that would be an extremely tough decision to make. That's definitely something one can ponder on. But yeah, it took me a while to really get into the movie. But once the first plot point happened and we moved into the second act, then I was hooked. And that's when, you know, the main characters, they got their visions from the aliens. And I knew from that point on, the movie is going to be about what do those visions mean? Where does it lead? And are we going to see aliens? And that was definitely exciting enough to keep watching. And I think the movie delivered on all those aspects. It was really very entertaining and we loved it. Now, there were also some things I didn't like so much, and I want to talk about those too. But first I have to say that I'm not claiming that I could do it better, right? I'm fully aware how unbelievably difficult it is to make a movie, let alone a good movie or a great movie. It's very difficult. And I'm also aware that criticizing something is 1,000 times easier than doing it yourself, okay? So having said that, I thought that some of the scenes were way too long and too confusing. For example, right, the opening scene, for example, in the desert storm, that was about 6 minutes long or something. And it was very confusing. You couldn't really understand anything. And then there was a problem with the translator and we didn't have any subtitles, you know, so it was very confusing and long. And I was so happy after a while when a character said, "What the hell is going on?" And I was thinking, yeah, exactly, what's going on, you know? So when I did the editing, I actually had to download the script so I could read to understand or realize what the characters were saying. And that's when I also realized that a lot of dialogue wasn't really necessary. You know, in a movie script, every piece of dialogue technically should move the story forward. And I thought there was a lot of dialogue that you could cut out and you could get right to the point, you know, so that was one thing. And then also the whole thing with having a translator, I mean, after a while, that was just too much, you know. I don't think nowadays one would do that anymore. Because you could have a character that has a very heavy accent, you know, like the French guy, and still speak English, but having somebody translate all the time, that was just way too much. And I would definitely not do that in a movie unless it's absolutely important to the story. But in this case, could have done without. And then we moved on to the second scene, which was in the air traffic control room. And again, that was a very long scene. It was at least 4 minutes long, a lot of talking back and forth, and it was confusing. You couldn't understand it because people were talking over each other, and it was just too long and again too confusing. So I think those scenes could have been shorter. And then there was another scene. Oh, when there was a scene in the living room, there was some discussion going on, and then one of the kids started banging on the piano, you know. It was after a while very annoying because you couldn't really understand what they were saying. And I understand the concept of creating an element like that to create confusion in the audience's mind. I get it, you know. But when you reach a point where it takes you out of the movie because it's so annoying, then you cross the line. And I think sometimes they did cross the line, but you know, it is what it is. And then of course you have this whole scene with Roy when he goes a little bit crazy and wants to build the tower, and he throws plants through the window, shattering the kitchen window, and then shoveling dirt in and pouring garbage in there, and then throwing bricks, pretty much destroying the kitchen, you know. I thought that was a little bit overboard. It was very irrational of the character, and I'm usually not a big fan of cheering for irrational characters, you know, so they walked a thin line with that one. I mean, building this thing inside in the living room would be one thing, but destroying the entire kitchen for it, that, you know, didn't really make too much sense to me, you know. And then Jessica mentioned something Oh yeah, about the TV that was always on. There's a lot of scenes where the TV was going on, and if you have the TV in the background, that's one thing, that's okay, But if you don't see the TV and you have dialogue coming, like in one scene, somebody was knocking and somebody said, come on in, and the main character didn't really react to that. So that was confusing until you realized, oh, the TV is on, And again, that's a moment where the audience, or at least me as a viewer, it took me out of the movie for a moment because it was confusing and completely unnecessary. I remember when the comics were playing, some of the dialogue, some of the stuff that was said on TV correlated with what's going on in his life, and that's all okay because we saw the TV, we knew it was the TV. I'm talking about the moments when you don't see the TV and you get this dialogue that is confusing, unnecessary. I would get rid of that, And then there was one more thing. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, the whole concept about the government covering things up and creating events that, are kind of manipulated and all that stuff. And of course, by now, I think we all know that this is indeed happening, It's common sense because, if I would be the government, I would do stuff like that too, I would keep stuff secret because you want to make sure you still have the power. And so I understand, but the thing I had to laugh was in the movie, everybody is wearing the masks, and the guy is telling the people sitting in the helicopter, there's poison in the air and deadly gas everywhere, you have to leave, and then they close the door and the helicopter takes off. And as soon the helicopter is gone, everybody just takes the masks off, all the soldiers and the interpreter, everybody takes the masks off. And that reminded me of the many scenes we have seen throughout the pandemic, when the politicians, they all wear the masks, they're standing on the stage, posing for a photo op, and as soon as the photo op is done, they all take the masks off immediately, not realizing that there was still a camera rolling, and that was just so parallel, that situation. I had to laugh out loud. So, but that's all I have to say about that. Maybe one more thing about the ending. I thought it was very cute, very endearing and heartwarming when you saw the little alien kids choose Roy to come along with them. They were so excited and cheering him on and leading him to the ship, and that was a very heartwarming moment, even though the choice Roy made was of course a little questionable. He is leaving his wife behind and his children behind and just takes off with the aliens. That would be a very tough decision, of course, and I'm not judging, I'm not in that situation. But I remember reading somewhere that Steven Spielberg said that if he would redo the movie, he would change that ending. He would not have Roy actually going with the aliens, because he was probably also thinking, it's a little questionable decision, maybe he would choose somebody else. But ultimately I didn't care too much. It was a great ending and it was great to see. So I still like the movie very much. All in all, it was a great movie, great experience. So happy we saw it, very entertaining. Thanks for recommending the movie, and we will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.